Welcome back to another episode of Uncommon Wealth, the show where we dive into the mindsets, moves, and mechanics behind building generational wealth. Hi, today on Uncommon Wealth, I'm joined by Kevin Sarbora, the founder of Designed Realty. Ranked among the top 100 brokers in Washington State by RealTrends, Kevin leads a firm recognized in the top 2% nationwide for customer satisfaction. He's not only built a business of impact, but also creating a training system that helps other brokers rise into the top 1% of the industry. Kevin, you've built Designed Realty around both client service and broker education. What inspired you to focus not just on production, but on raising the standards of the entire industry?
What a question. What inspired me to do that was a complete and utter lack of understanding of real estate. I was a bartender, right? I was in restaurants, I was a cook. So I came into real estate not knowing what it was like, not knowing how it was set up. And it didn't make sense to me that you're essentially on your own when you have the massive amount of money flowing through the brokerage, and the commission checks are big, and these splits exist. And what does the brokerage actually give the broker? And in my experience, vastly across the whole spectrum of offices I went to, was basically nothing. You're left to your own devices, and it didn't make sense to me, because when we try to focus on pushing development of the broker and then business to the broker, the brokerage makes more money. That's how we make money. So the economics of it didn't make sense to me.
So the whole thing was broken from your perspective. Yeah.
Perspective, the whole thing's broken, and you should be treating the real estate broker like a licensed professional service provider, and they should be doing high value tasks, not running to Kinko's and laminating a switch label, you know?
Yeah. So when did that begin for you?
It kind of just happened naturally, I guess. Started getting into real estate, started selling homes, and realized, how do I find people to work with? I either have to invest time or I have to invest money. And the time disappeared because I had a baby on the way. So suddenly got to start thinking about the family. So we started looking at paid leads, started a relationship with Zillow, and just started growing it. And as you know, when you grow and volume gets bigger, you get stretched, and you have to find ways to put systems into place to manage that business. And so that's what my wife and I did. Was we would analyze my work in the field, break it down, and try to document and create systems that could make us more efficient so I can handle more business.
To create more scale.
Yeah, exactly. Scale, right? And we got to the point where I was maxed out individually. I did 48 deals as an individual broker in 2018 while opening an office. And we just made the decision to get me out of day-to-day production and focus on training and development.
And it's been full steam ahead ever since then in 2018?
35% year-over-year growth every year.
Wow. How sustainable is that going forward?
I actually think it's going to increase.
No kidding.
Yeah. So we got to, in 23, we started taking off. COVID, just a whole bunch of natural kind of confluences happened, right? We had developed a relationship with Zillow that we grew to be a pretty big team. They opened up a pay on referral model. So I didn't have to write the check up front anymore. So suddenly my budget had $1 million in it that I could spend on staff and offices. And then COVID pushed everybody to the internet, because before COVID, 9% of people found a real estate broker online. If you look today, it's over 35%. So we established a relationship.
Was that 9% before COVID?
It was 9 before
Oh
COVID.
my gosh, what a low, that's crazy.
Yeah. And then everybody gets shoved inside, and they're on their computers. So now everybody's on Zillow and Redfin. And so there's this consolidation of the client where they're finding their brokers online more often, because COVID pushed people to that. And then the DOJ is pushing for transparency in commissions. And so what that's doing is that's making a real estate broker have to have a contract conversation with the buyer client up front. And that's going to wash a lot of people out.
Mm-hmm.
So what I see is we have a very powerful relationship with the organic owner of the space online. And we're at the point now where we're going to do 600 to 700 transactions this year. It'll be our first year that we actually post numbers on our brokerage as an independent brokerage on our NWMLS. So we're going to get eyes, and I would expect to bring 100 to 200 brokers in organically over the next year. But we just doubled down and hired an executive team essentially to try to scale to regional within the next 3 to 5 years.
And then national after that?
You got it.
Yeah, man. And then world domination after that.
Yeah. A couple of different fields.
Well, okay. So clearly the business is growing. You've got systems in place, and scale is always something that, you know, is challenging, especially as you grow more and more. This conversation is about uncommon wealth. So let's talk about your belief about money. So you used to have a belief about money before success and scale and growth happened, but what's kind of completely shifted from for you over those years? Maybe it was 2018, maybe it was prior to 2018, but how do you view money, success, and business today that is different than how you viewed it kind of before the massive growth took off for you?
I have been thinking about that a lot recently, actually. And I remember, growing up, I remember that $100,000 mark. It's like when I'm 15 years old, it's like, man, if I can make 100 grand, I'm going to be set. 100 grand a year. And now like that's not even half of my monthly, but nut that I got to crack to pay the bills, right? So you do get a different perspective on it. Um, and I think that when you don't have you chase the wealth because it offers the ability for you to start establishing emotional security. And when you get the money, you realize that the money is not that, right? It just offers a platform for you to be able to grow as a person. And so I think that my view on money and wealth has changed in the sense of like, I no longer chase it as um, the end. It is a tool to be used. And when you can free your mind from the grasps of money rules everything and money is just a tool, then suddenly it becomes a lot more available.
Yeah, I have some very wealthy clients that I've worked with, some guests on the show. And one of the common threads amongst those that are uber successful is that money is not the end result, like you just mentioned. It's not the prize. It affords you the ability to create time and freedom, right? If you used it right. I mean, there's that saying, money is the root of all evil. And I guess it could be if it's used for bad things, but it is a tool, as you said, to provide an opportunity to create leverage, to create time. And most importantly, I think, success is measured by the freedoms that we have and the ability to do that. Um, Back to the scale for a second. You said you've been able to scale. I mean, your brokerage firm has been recognized nationally for client satisfaction. That typically is contradictory, right? To have explosive growth, but also at the same time to have high client satisfaction in today's environment doesn't really go together. How have you been able to do that? What systems or values do you credit most for being able to build that?
So when we stumbled into this, we stumbled into it with some foresight, right? And we talked to a family friend who had a very successful plumbing business, and he said the most important thing you need to do is you need to document your values. How do you want your company to run, and how do you want to live your life? They can't be mixed; they have to be intertwined. And so we sat down and we thought about that, and we came up with values, and to be understanding, to be knowledgeable, prompt, and these things. We come back to them and we focus on them, and we look at our team as serving the brokers. We really look like at the brokers as if they are our client, right? And if we can give them every tool and every availability, uh, they will give good service because they want to. Ultimately, they quit their job to start a dream, right? Like they jumped into the abyss of the unknown because they want to help people. Most brokers that I know, when I ask them what motivates them, it's not the money. The money's cool, right? The idea that of unlimited income is good, but most of them have an altruistic, I want to help people. And so if we can help the broker help the client, then it doesn't matter how big we get, because if we focus on the broker and keep our core values, then we can always circle back to that. And we know we'll get good service. And then how do we provide extra value to the client that other people aren't?
And create that win-win-win, right? If you help the broker win, they will in turn, if they're doing it for the right reasons, help the client win, which in turn helps you win. It becomes this cyclical, you know, relationship. It really can exist, a true win-win-win relationship.
Absolutely. A
Yeah.
100% can. And you can grow at scale, at speed, and do that if you focus on your values.
If your values are clear, right,
Yeah.
from the very beginning. Yeah. Too many times we find, though, entrepreneur starts business takes off. Entrepreneur was by himself. All of a sudden, they've hired people, and then they're kind of chasing the value, right? It wasn't built around core values. And then they go back in and spend a lot of time and a lot of energy and effort trying to identify and define what those core values are. And then I don't know, I've been around a lot of companies that have done that, and those values never really seem genuine, right?
Right.
Not like you guys did it from the very beginning. Your core values were clear and everything's been built around the core values instead of trying to insert them after the fact, right?
Absolutely. You got to build
Most
around, you got to embody it.
Yeah, most entrepreneurs see their business endeavor or their business unit or their company as their retirement plan. Um, some of them wait to the very end, right? And if there's an exit, then they're going to ride off into the sunset with that. Others kind of diversify along the way as the business is making money. The owner, takes some distributions or takes some draws and diversifies their overall portfolio. Now I know I'm talking to a real estate guy, so I suspect real estate is going to be a heavy component. But how do you think about wealth building inside your brokerage versus creating wealth outside your brokerage?
Um, I I I look at it from a perspective, I guess, of um, how many lives am I changing? Am I building wealth for others? Really, that is what kind of drives me in this. You mentioned what a lot of entrepreneurs do. I'm a stumble into it entrepreneur, right? Like I didn't go at this trying to make money. I had a family and we had to support it. And then I started seeing that we were changing people's lives along the way, and people were getting married and buying houses and establishing stable six-figure incomes. And that's when it really became real. And so by investing in them, they've been able to grow the budget massively, right? And so I've poured all my money back into it to grow it. And now I'm at the point where we're starting to be able to pull some stuff out. So what I'm doing is trying to monetize those things that I find interesting, right? Like so that I can not work. I like real estate. It's frankly, it's been an avenue for me. It's not like a passion. And so because I have this position now, I'm also looking at how am I going to set up and start becoming a developer. I have a lot of very easy access to, a lot of properties that are off market that haven't, been cycled around before. So by connecting dots there and connecting the data between my brokers, I have the ability now to have a fire hose of development deals coming to me. I can hire and set up a general contracting company, provide additional services. And really, I look at how can I integrate, solve those problems, bring value to the market. And as a byproduct, I'm going to spin off a small slice of a really, really, really big pie for myself. And so that's kind of how I look at it, is if I can bring value to other people, uh, and do it at a reasonable rate, my coffers will fill very quickly.
So what's the goal for you then? Obviously, you have the brokerage, you're growing to a regional firm. The goal is to go to a national firm. What's the succession or the legacy look like? Do you continue it and pass it on? Do you sell it? Like what's the ultimate? Obviously, you're going to change a lot of lives along the way, and I'm not minimizing that, right? The number of lives that you're changing, and it is a very cool feeling to see the people you bring into the business do very well successfully financially, buy a house, buy a car, become successful by all standards. But for you, what's the plan when you reach the goal of a national brokerage, or as high as this thing can go? What's your plan?
It's a good question. I don't want to sell. Like, I'm not doing this because I am looking for an exit. What I'm doing right now is separating myself from the day to day in the EOS model. Right, I just hired an integrator and a really good team, and we chose for that integrator role a very specific person with a lot
Let
of
me guess, that
experience.
makes you the visionary.
Yeah, you got it right. And so I understand my limitations in management, right? Like, I'm all over the board. I'll leave things untied. So I need that guy, right? And my
Hmm.
wife is that guy too, right? We can have the vision, but that's where that goes. So then we're going to put stakeholder positions into our branch offices. We want people who are there for 20, 30 years, right? And establish really a stewardship of the core values, essentially, so that we don't lose that culture that people are actually here for, that's spinning off all these additional values. And if that ends up staying in private ownership, and my son or daughter in 30 years wants to do it, and they can do it, and they earn it, great. If not, there are people who are going to be in the organization who are passionate about it and will continue it. But ultimately, that's where we want to go, is just kind of establish a strong place that people can go to and know they can train and develop and grow life with.
I love that, man. So that is probably the harder path to take than a path to exit at some point. So now you have to think about protecting both your family, but also your business. So, what are you doing, whether through legal structures, insurance, or other strategies, to kind of put some protection measures in place for your business so that it can have that long, super long runway, and then for your family as well?
So lots of insurance,
Hmm.
lots of insurance, right? Um, we have, number one, like, it is an inevitability. Like, somebody's going to sue me at some point, right? I'm doing too many transactions for it not to
Yeah,
happen.
you did 400 last year. How many have you done total in your career?
In my career total to this point, probably, I'm 1,300.
Wow, that's
So
awesome.
400 last year. We'll do 600 to 700 this year. Over 1,000 next year.
Wow.
So it's going to happen at some point. So
Yeah.
I carry a lot of insurance.
Hmm.
Try to keep my business entities safe, essentially, and structured.
You got them
Uh,
all isolated around. You got them all
yeah,
compartmentalized.
yeah, and I mean, it looks funky on paper to people who
Hmm.
don't get it, but it really is. You have to protect yourself. Um, and so really, I've got it structured up so we have the entities separated. Um, the business and my family have good insurance, uh, and I have enough cash flow to handle anything, you know, and I'm not, I won't let somebody damage the business over a principle, So I'm concerned of it, of it, but it's an inevitability that eventually will happen that you got to deal with, right? So
You
I'm
know,
gonna
I've
deal with it
been. You got into the business in 2000, and what you said, you really, the light went off for you in 2018, but were you in it before that a little bit?
yeah, I got licensed in 15.
Okay. So I got licensed in the life insurance world in 2001, was a financial advisor, had my Series 7 series, advisory license, life insurance since 2001. Around 2009, I went to a conference and met some uber successful guys. They kind of took me under their wing as a up and coming guy. And one of the guys told me, I'll never forget it at that time. He says, "It is inevitable. If you fashion yourself, or you try to do business in the high net worth space, in the, affluent market space, and that's where the majority of your transactions go through, it's only a matter of time before litigation finds you, right or wrong, right? And I'm not here to say, one way or the other, but you're going to get sued. And so
Yep.
I think you're smart thinking about that in advance and putting those fail safes in place and those barriers in place to be able to do that. That's what E&O insurance is for, right? So long as you don't do anything wrong, but that's what E&O insurance is for. And quite frankly, LLC structures are for as well, right? Liability protection. Um, what does legacy mean to you personally? I feel like you've probably thought about this more than others, but what does legacy mean to you? Legacy, not just for your stakeholders, because you talked about them maybe taking on an ownership as well, but also for your family. What do you want Designed Realty to represent for your team, your clients, and your family 25 years from now?
Legacy is something that I have been thinking about recently, a lot more. And it's interesting, you know, because when I think about legacy, all I see is happy, healthy people. And, the world can tear you up and it can destroy you. And by having economic security, um, you can insulate yourself from some of that. And so if I can help insulate my children, and I can insulate my wife, and I can insulate my community, um, and then I've had an impact. And that's what legacy means to me.
That's awesome, dude. You mentioned, carrying lots of insurance. I'm curious only because this is what I do is, the wealthy in the United States have been using permanent life insurance as an asset protection tool and a estate liquidity tool for decades. Is that something you've been able to mix into your overall structure yet, or not yet?
So that's something that I haven't mixed in yet. It's been on the radar, but building the personal wealth and insulating that has taken a backseat to stabilizing the company over the last 5 years because it's been so rapidly growing. So that's all stuff I'm looking at now. With the opportunities that I have with development and expenses that I have for writing taxes off, right? Like, I mean, there's a lot of things that I can do. So having that ability to control, like via self-directed IRAs, I know people are using those, and then the life insurance, that's
Yeah.
been it's been on my radar to learn more about too.
What's a blind spot you think most successful business owners or brokers, even in your industry, overlook when it comes to protecting the wealth they've worked so hard to build?
Um, wow, I would say that the concept of like loss aversion plays a lot here, where people will over insure against a negative that happens, but then they won't take a risk
Hmm.
because they feel the loss might affect them too greatly. And I think that kind of is deep rooted in most people from a long time ago, when you couldn't take a risk, you get a cut, you die. But we have some more stability in today's day and age, and people let their ideas just die. And the reality, like, it's, you might have the idea, and it might not take that much to go get it, and it might be
Hmm.
a slight setback in your life because you might have a decreased period of income for a year or two, and you might have to eat some top ramen, or you might have to sell your house to do something. But like, those are extremes. Most people won't even take the first step because they're criticizing themselves or they don't think they can do it. And I think
They
that is
never even give it life.
exactly.
And that initial decrease in the private equity space is called the J curve, right? And even investors of private equity firms understand that when they capitalize a business, that it's going to go down for a period of time before it goes back up, thus called the J curve, right? And the question is, how deep, how long, how low does that J curve initially go? But that's a common thing. And I think you're exactly right. The fear of failure or the fear of getting that cut, as you mentioned, outweighs and overwhelms even the opportunity for what the success could be that can come from it. I agree with you. I think that's a huge blind spot for a lot of business owners, which is why they're so reluctant to change,
Yeah.
right? Remember Blockbuster?
Oh yeah. We'll have one in Washington.
Do you really?
Yes, up in the top right corner of the state, in the
I've
middle
got
of
my
nowhere.
old Blockbuster card. I keep it as a relic, but and then you remember Netflix, how Netflix got started, and talk about two different divergent philosophies. And I think exactly around what you just said. You know, one was so stuck in their ways, didn't want to make a change, and the other one just kind of moved with it, and the rest is history. Cannot believe you guys have a Blockbuster. It's crazy.
It's kind of it might be a Radio Shack actually.
Oh,
Actually,
even worse, a
yeah, I
Radio
know.
Shack. Yeah,
But
I tried to explain Radio Shack to my 15-year-old daughter the other day, and she just didn't get it. She's like, "Why not just go on Amazon?"
Is Jeff Bezos hadn't done that yet.
Isn't it crazy?
Yeah.
To that point, so think about this: your kids or your top brokers are listening to this conversation years from now. Somehow they find it in this antiquated version of the internet, and they find it on YouTube. What's the one lesson you want them to carry forward?
Um, Look in the mirror at yourself.
What do you mean?
Look in the mirror and be honest with yourself. You know, don't lie to yourself about who you are and what you're struggling with, because everybody is struggling with something, and only the people who can look in the mirror and start to see it are going to find happiness. You know, if you hide it, it's not going to be there. And you can almost relate that back to everything. The
Mm.
irate client who calls you, the kid at school who's bullying because his dad yells at his mom, all this stuff, and so it's like, if my kids find this, it's like, look in the mirror, just look in the mirror.
Man, I think that's awesome. Because I think, in today's society and environment, we're looking everywhere else but in the mirror, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's all on social media, it's all on Instagram, it's all TikTok or somewhere else. And that is starting to manifest itself in the business world, right? You're
Bless.
starting to see all these younger kids, they're not kids anymore, they're young adults, but the lack of accountability is there, right? And that's infiltrating every aspect of, especially the service business, right? Because you and I are both, yes, at the end of the day, a client gets something tangible like a piece of real estate or a life insurance, but it's very much a service-based business, right?
Absolutely. 100%.
Dude, thank you for joining me today. I mean, sharing your story behind Designed Realty, kind of addressing a problem and fixing a solution around that, but anchored by your core values and that mindset to allow you to build a excellent and explosive business. I'm very impressed by what you've done. You're focused on education, raising the standards, protecting the wealth and the legacy that you're building for your clients and your brokers. It's exactly what Uncommon Wealth is all about, and this podcast was created for. But to the listeners, if you've enjoyed this conversation, make sure to like, subscribe, share it with someone who's building not just a business like what Kevin did, but a legacy like Kevin. And Kevin, I look forward to seeing you and seeing how you continue to lead and grow this industry and inspire the next generation of brokers. I cannot wait till you're a regional and national name. I'm like, I know that guy. I talked to
Excellent.
that guy. And
This
I
is
look
fun.
for, yeah, man, I look forward to continuing the conversation offline to you. I can help provide some clarity around that insurance conversation as well
Cool.
for you.
Right on.
Really appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
All right.